Aloha, I am June Jones of the Houston Roughnecks, and this is the XFL show.
XFL is cooking.
Welcome, football fans. This is For the Love of Football, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
And I'm Bryant.
While the football world is focused on measurables and wingspan and 40 times, and upside and can't miss draft picks, we're still grinding on terms and conditions of these XFL CFL talks. This is episode 168. It's time for the alignment draft, Bryant.
It's drafting season. I love it.
It is.
It's my favorite time of year.
It's draft week. Don't get me wrong. Love watching the draft. Love draft coverage. Love doing my own mock drafts. But on this show, we're talking XFL, of course. And when you're talking XFL these days, you're talking XFL and CFL. So we're going to have an alignment draft today. What does that mean, football freaks? It means, well, the XFL and the CFL are coming to some sort of alignment, and we're going to draft it up. We're going to add a draft factor to it later, Brian, in the hot read this week, and we're going to come up with kind of a baseline terms and conditions and move on from there for the negotiations.
This is probably the first time that I'm getting anything out of you when it comes to alignment and how this should work, right? You've been staying away from it all. You've been not wanting to get yourself involved because it's a deep, dark hole if you start going down that path.
I don't want to go down that path.
You stayed away from it. So now I'm excited because we're going to do a little snippet. I wish it was more, but I think if we found a happy medium, I'm fine with it. Good. Stick around because I think Alan might go off on a tangent once you realize, once he gets that little, the first one's free, Alan. After that,
no, I'm gonna see. I'm just gonna do one, and then I'm gonna quit. I don't fall into that trap, and we've set it up. It has structure, so there will not be going down some deep dark hole where we are just speculating. This is a draft. There's a format. We're gonna go over the format, and there are gonna be rules, and then at the end of the draft, there's gonna be a clear picture of maybe where alignment can go, at least in the imaginary alignment draft that we set up here later today. It's going to be a fun exercise, and it's going to be very fitting for this draft week. Hopefully your team drafted the best player they ever drafted, and we will get to that later on. First and foremost, though, Brian, 724-5654-XFL. That is the XFL fan line. That's the number fans can call anytime, text anytime. Standard text messaging rates do apply, and hit us up and respond to our conversations. Answer the questions we pose. Pose their own questions. Whatever you want to do, hit us up, 724-565-4XFL on that XFL fan line or at XFL show, because then at the beginning of the show, we dink and dunk around social media and that XFL fan line and what we're hearing, and we have a lot of fun, which we're about to do because we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You could go to prettyeasypodcast.com. They make this show possible, and they can make your own show possible. Hit them up, prettyeasypodcast.com. Get your podcast started today. Oh, yeah, they have a catchphrase, too. Obligatory.
Thank you. Because they make podcasting pretty easy.
And you're
going to realize how quickly it is to get these things right, Alan, because we're soon to be the only ones left from the 2020 season. I think we're about to get into that, though.
Yeah, everybody's getting new gigs. Everybody's moving on. But we're not. Hashtag we want our jobs back. Dinkin' and Duncan around XFL social media. So XFL fan interest in the 2021 CFL season, Bryant. Put the poll question out there. Gauging interest. I'm calling it the most anticipated CFL season in XFL history. What do the polls say that we put up on Twitter so far?
So we gave a couple options, right? That was the gimmick this week. And what exactly was the XFL fans' interest in a CFL 2021 season. We put very interested, intrigued, indifferent, not interested. I mean, very interested won by a wide margin if you kind of look at the whole picture, but 25% almost said not interested at all. Why that one is the one that's most curious to me.
I tell you, they got a waggle. I tell you, they got a bigger end zone. They got no tight ends, just speed guys everywhere. I tell you that they got basically the same thing when it comes to the end of the halves as the XFL, with the comeback periods, essentially, with the last 3 minutes. And you're still not interested? What is wrong with you? Also, it's football. It's football, but I guess it is running up against the NFL. So it's going to get lost in the shuffle in the States, no doubt, because they did move the season back up in Canada. But if you're following along with us and if you're following the XFL, got to be interested in the CFL this season for sure. So hopefully we see.
What's a more concerning number? Is it only 33% that are very interested, or the 25% that are not interested?
I would say the 25% that are just blatantly not interested, not even giving it a chance, especially when you've heard a little bit more now about the CFL. If you're an American, you've heard more about the CFL, I think, on social media than normal. Maybe not by that large of a margin, but
Dave Naylor is a household name, friend of the show from last week.
Exactly, on around these parts.
He wasn't a couple weeks ago.
So we will keep the polls going, keep that poll up, go vote on it at XFL Show, and we'll see if that interest goes up. Also, around XFL and CFL social media, Bryant, we had Paul on Twitter said, "Give it a rest. There's no chance of a merger." He said, "No chance. Zero.
No chance.
No chance of a merger." Even though we had Dave Naylor on last week, and he was saying like there's people in the front office of the CFL are pretty excited about some sort of an arrangement with the XFL. Do you think Paul's just like there's going to be nothing between them, or does he just mean strictly merger? Because if that's the case, maybe Paul.
But maybe Paul. But at the same time, why give it a rest? It's what we're living for right now. This is what you have to anticipate. What you have to enjoy. Why would I give it a rest? This is the thing to talk about right now. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, we give it a rest.
What I do know is they're talking about a merger.
What does he want us to do? Give it a rest and go away? Never, Paul. Not going anywhere. Just like the guy behind me. Wait, there he is. Not going anywhere. Like Luis Perez. We'll get into him in a second. And lastly, Dinkin and Duncan, Juggalo Chronic on YouTube, Bryant. I know that's your favorite place for social interaction. FYI, Boxing Day is Canadian Christmas.
Okay, so
I don't know if is that right? Is it like the day?
I don't know if it's 100% right. It's like the day after Christmas, but anyway,
Canadian Christmas is Christmas.
I might have come off as not knowing what. Look, I'm very for Canada. I'm very happy about Canada. I love Canada.
You love hockey.
Listen to Toronto radio. I love hockey. It's my favorite sport. I used to listen to TSN in Toronto. I've met James Duthie. Hi, James, if you're watching. We met in the Bahamas a couple years ago. Had a good chat with some sushi. It's a good time. I know all about Canada. What I didn't know is what is Boxing Day. I know that it's the day after Christmas. I just don't know exactly what box. Is it when you box all your ornaments from Christmas?
No, it's in celebration of the sweet science and not that nonsense that they got going on with like Jake Paul and all them. Real boxing.
Ooh.
But that's for another time. But
do you think Vince already bought his tickets to Miami, by the way?
Vince of this show. No, but I did send him the link to the story about Mike Tyson fighting Lennox Lewis coming up, which is rumored.
Ooh.
And he's very interested in that. And next week I will be watching.
Saw that bout at your house.
Yep, it was on. And I will be watching Canelo next week. This is not a boxing show.
DAZN.
This is the XFL show. And at this point on this show, we get into two pieces of news that you should know this week regarding the XFL, and I'd say two exciting pieces of news. I'm happy about these two pieces of news in this week's cover 2.
I'm wondering what the hell you're doing in this league.
So there he is, Luis Perez, Bryant, right there behind me. We're doing this alignment draft later on, picking the base terms of the agreement between the XFL and the CFL. But as far as I'm concerned, the only pick to make is Luis Perez going to the spring league, joining Kevin Gilbride and the Joesters, who are now officially my favorite team in the spring league. And I'll be rooting for them next week as the season kicks off. Awesome to see Luis Perez playing some football once again. Death, taxes, and Luis Perez playing spring ball. That's what it's about.
That's the best
these last few years.
Oh yeah. He was an Iron. He was a Wildcat. He was a Guardian, and now he's a Jouster. I mean, really think about like that resume is pretty insane. I'm so happy to see this man back. I've actually sat and had conversations with the man. It's a lot of fun. He's just down to earth. He gets it. And to see him try to continue that skill in the TSL. Is it the TSL or is it TSL? I don't know.
That'd be like carne asada steak. You can't say
I know. That's what I say. You can't say in TSL.
In TSL.
To see him back and with Gilbride, this makes me want to watch TSL even more. I was probably going to catch a glimpse of it. I know I'm not going to miss a Jousters game now.
Oh yeah, I'm not missing any of the games because they're all televised. The spring league kicks off next week, next Thursday on FS1, and we get Luis Perez on Fox on Saturday, May 8th. So you have what a day, the Kentucky Derby. You got Luis Perez and Canelo. Oh my God, I can't wait. And it's my first vaccine like weekend out next week too, Brian. I'm going over to Vince's to watch all that.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm excited for it.
We are having a lot of fun too because we are fully vaccinated too. Get your vaccines. I will say this, Alan, because we're in draft mode. I'm going to ask you this question because the XFL in 2020
I picked Luis Perez.
Assigned their quarterbacks. The first 8. So let's not talk about Josh Johnson or any who came by after, right? Not even Heineke. He was in the second round. Where would you draft Luis Perez, knowing what you know now about what he did in 2020?
If you did a redraft of
an actual XFL, draft, not an assignment, but a redraft.
A redraft of the XFL, just the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he would probably go for me. Probably, honestly, I mean, in my heart, number 1, but 4 or 5.
4?
Yeah. Well,
5?
We got PJ. You got
PJ's
Heineke.
number 1.
You got Heineke now.
No, Heineke was assigned after. That's what I'm saying. The first 8 quarterbacks.
Oh,
Heineke
I can't
was part of that second.
QB?
No Heineke,
okay,
no Josh Johnson.
Well, then he then he bumps up to 2. Okay, he's 2.
Maybe. What about Tamu? That's the one where I'm like, I'd put him in front of Tamu.
I'd put him in front of Tamu. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2.
Crazy.
Because it was all Landry. It was all Cardale Jones.
Definitely not Cardale.
You sit there and don't lie, because I'm asking you not to lie. How did you feel about Luis Perez being a Wildcat at the very beginning?
I was not excited. Because I felt we as the LA Wildcats needed more than a gritty game managing kind of just pull it out of the dirt type of player. I wanted something flashy like a Josh Johnson, which is what the Wildcats got. But Luis Perez beat him, so I can't say anything. And
undefeated.
Yeah, and after the fact, though, then you add the other QBs, though. Heineke, Josh Johnson, he probably like 4. But that's another debate. The fact is,
both of them.
He did. He won't go away, and I love it.
Heineke.
He's persistent, and I am rooting for him now. And he's with Kevin Gilbride, who honestly, the biggest shocker of TSL to me is Kevin Gilbride's coaching. Awesome to see that. I thought he would be done after the XFL. A man.
Where would you draft Kevin Gilbride
as my coach? Damn,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I love this. Drafting season's my favorite.
Redrafts are tough, but higher than I probably had him at the start. No, I had him pretty high.
I'd go
like
June.
One of my he was one of my top coaches I was excited for going into this season.
I think I would do June and Gilbride 1-2, honestly.
A redraft.
He was second in our coach of the year.
Damn. Well, these are poll questions. These are social media debates we could have. And maybe even next week. Because we'll still have probably draft. We'll be on the draft come down next week. Save it for next week. But on those redrafts, definitely Luis Perez. Number one in all of our hearts. Go, Luis. Kill it in the spring league. We'll be watching and we'll be talking about it next week on this show. Because probably as we record, it'll be the first couple games will be finishing. Yeah, or they might even be on.
I'll have them on here.
Week,
you might have them on a CRT in your room.
Got to have that. That's essential now with the computer setup. Cover 2, part 2 now. Other great news. Although, see, the thing is here. Will this guy be around to help the XFL out? Because they'll need him. We'll see. But Eric Galko, who was the man who basically scouted all the players for the XFL. We had him on the show. Tireless worker.
Multiple times. Yep.
Crazy energy and just hustle to round up all the data and all the players and put the summer showcases together. And just this guy was nuts with how hard he worked and getting the quality players that we wanted in the XFL. He was a big part of that. Eric Galko has a new gig, and Field Yates of ESPN tweeted out the East-West Shrine Bowl will be back next year with a great new leader. Eric Galko will be the new director of football operations and player personnel. He was the director of player personnel for the XFL and killed it in that role. I mean, you just can't of all the people who did awesome in their different various roles as in the league, putting the on-field product together. Eric Galko was one of the best, if you ask me, because I love seeing the players they found to put in the XFL. They were way better than 2001, and they were better than I could have hoped for going into 2020 for a spring league. It proved the theory right because of the work he did. There's so many damn good football players out there. Where
would you redraft Eric Galko in terms of I'm joking. No, Eric Galko, I've had, again, countless conversations with him. Great person to talk to. His mind when it talks about scouting and things like that. Think of like Sam Schwartzstein with rules. That's Eric Galko with players. The man works endlessly to do a good job and find players, because I think going back to our interviews with him, he was basically saying how the XFL couldn't miss or couldn't overlook players. They had to find talent, because in the NFL, you draft a guy in the 3rd round, he's not that good. Okay, well, next year. The XFL couldn't afford that type of loss, because if they're drafting people high, they want them to perform well. And if they're not, then who knows what's going to happen. But Eric Galko, if you follow him on Twitter, lots of insight on this draft, on players in general. It's a good follow on Twitter, and congratulations, big time. Al and I alluded it to early though, and with HBK gone a couple weeks ago, and now Eric Galko this week, it's going to be a whole new regime coming in here. Basically, I mean, we're the only ones left. We really are the only ones left.
So Bryant, as director of player personnel, I guess I'll have to be head of football operations. No, there's still people out there, and who knows? I mean, head of East-West Shrine Bowls, solid gig, but I mean, we'll see what happens if Eric Galko's around.
When he's still running Optimum Scouting, if I'm not mistaken, so that's still a thing that he's doing. So
guys who were in the
which he worked with the TSL a couple years ago.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens when the XFL starts calling for those kind of people to actually be a part of the league. That's all on hold right now. Right now, it's just an idea, and it's a piece of property to be aligned with the CFL. We hope. Or do we? I do. But those 2 pieces of news warm my heart, seeing people from the XFL 2020 move on and continue in football. But now we need to continue with what we're doing here, and that is forging ahead to whatever kickoff will be for the XFL when it kicks off next. And assuming it's aligned with the CFL, What does it look like? We're asking it every single week. This week, it's the NFL Draft. What better way to format the discussion around the alignment as we continue that discussion than using the format of a draft, Brian? A draft is such a great way to get everything in front of you, line it up, put it out there, assess it, top to bottom, the measurables, the intangibles, and then you draft it, you pick it, and then it's a part of your team. It's a part of your makeup, your alignment, your structure. So we're going to draft some terms and conditions in the 2021 XFL CFL Alignment Draft as part of this week's Hot Read. Okay, so it was a slow XFL week, Brian, and a slow CFL week. I think you could agree with that.
Yes, definitely.
I'm pretty sure,
for the most part.
I'm pretty sure I even was hoping for some
that?
CFL news, and all I found this week when trying to find like decent CFL news was a story about a beaver that chewed a bunch of wires in British Columbia and knocked the internet out for a whole town. And so that was my CFL news in our Discord chat and setup this week. This is as much as I could get. That was relevant.
It was a very slow week, probably because they had such a big week. The CFL had a big week last week. They had to announce their push. Really not much to announce this week. We're still hoping for some XFL. You know, we've had Randy Ambrosi come out a couple times and say what he has to say. Nobody really from the XFL side, so hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. But I think it's like a bye week. Taking the week off. The NFL's going. They're humming right now. It's a big thing for them. Why am I going to come out with big news when everyone's talking about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah. And, of course, Najee Harris, most of all, right, Bryant?
Receiver? Running back.
Alabama running back, the Steelers got. Come on.
Yes.
Everybody was cheering here, and then everybody
That's
outside
what you
of
needed.
Pittsburgh was
Definitely
saying,
needed a running back
you
for
have
Ben
no
to do some play
offensive
action,
line.
too.
You have no O-line. How do you run the ball? Whatever. That's not what
Ben
this is about.
needs a good running back to do all that play action. I get it.
Quit kicking me while I'm down. All right, so slow week. Yeah, we're going to draft. We're going to have some fun with this. So here are the rules. Here's the setup. I'm going to rep the CFL. So I will be drafting on behalf of the CFL. Bryant will be drafting on behalf of the XFL.
I offered on the CFL side, but you said no. So
I'll do the CFL. I was going to do that to you and make you painfully have to advocate for things like 3 downs or whatever. So we're going to draft that way. On this side, you have the XFL picking, and my side, you have the CFL picking. And the rules are 4 rounds, and 1 term or condition per round is drafted. So, for instance, if Bryant picks 4 downs as an essential term, rule, condition of the alignment, I can't then draft, 3 downs. Once the 4 downs are drafted, they are drafted into the official alignment. And that's what
3 downs are off the board, or vice versa.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. So that's how it's going to work. You draft a term, a condition, a rule, some sort of note that goes into that contract that settles the alignment once and for all. And these are only the first 4 baseline conditions that are being drafted. And then we'll go from there. So what could it lead to? I don't know. But we're going to have almost not a rule book, but a kind of like a guide, a base from which the rest of the negotiations can be had in this imaginary world where the alignment draft is taking place. So without further
we're
ado,
going to randomize the first pick.
Let's randomize this
Neither one of
first
us know exactly who's going to go first. We didn't do any pre-work. We haven't really talked about this other than just kind of the rules. So I'm excited for this. I have a feeling of what Alan's going to go with because I just know Alan. I've known him for 25 years, it seems like now. So I get what he's going for. What I'm going for is just the better. thing for both leagues. But anyway, it's fine. So if you want, Alan, we're going to randomize this right here to see who goes first.
Yeah, random. Go. Come on, CFL. Come on. Give me my pick. When's it stop?
It's supposed to be. There it is.
All right.
Okay. Man.
So first pick. And well, we thought about playing the draft sound that they play when the pick is in, but we don't want to get sued or anything. So Bryant, if you want to do the honors.
Yeah, sure.
Copyright free.
Hashtag we want our jobs back.
Okay, so with the first pick in the 2021 XFL CFL Alignment Draft, the CFL is going to aim to keep the game in Canada first and foremost, because I know that's important to Canadian fans and the CFL itself. So we were debating on our side on the strategy on what course of action we'd take if we got this first pick, Brian. Was it going to be maintain our Canadian ratio or just stipulating the team structure? And that's where we're going to go. We want a term and condition inside of this alignment agreement that stipulates all of our Canadian teams stay in their cities. All 9 of them stay in their cities. They can't relocate within the first 5 years. And there's no going back from that. And that's our first draft pick. All 9 teams get to stay in their home cities.
Now, do you feel like that's the important thing? That's what people have been saying on Twitter. Now, you're locked in, so you can't change it.
We're locked in. But
do you feel like that is what people have been clamoring for on Twitter? Like,
well,
that's what people want. They want to make sure all 9 teams stay.
At the end of the day, I think a Canadian fan in Saskatchewan, their heart would be ripped out of their chest if you told them the Rough Riders were leaving Regina. Maybe not fans in Toronto with the Argonauts, but keeping those teams, and they're historic. I mean, most of them have been around there forever. So that's important. I know a lot of people, the first thing they go to is the rule book. You could really dictate the rule book, but when you relocate a team from a city, they're gone, usually forever, unless they're the Cleveland Browns. So,
or the Rams,
or the Chargers. But I digress. You know what I'm saying. And if they leave Canada, they're not coming back to Hamilton. They're not coming back.
Hey, Winnipeg came back in the NHL.
They did, and Ottawa, I think, left and came back in the CFL.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But that's you don't take teams away from fans. Say, hey, we got this new thing. It's an alignment, but we're taking away your teams. There are people who are afraid of that, even if they're even Argonauts fans, I'm sure. Alouettes fans, Lions fans,
yeah,
teams with that, like we talked about with Dave Naylor last week, who get less attendance, less eyeballs, even though they're the bigger cities. But that's what we're going to do. We're keeping the teams in Canada, all 9 of them.
I saw something on Twitter that was quite interesting before my pick is in, because I think I have some time left here. That the XFL would just consume the bigger markets and leave the rest of them for the CFL. So they would take Toronto, Montreal, and BC, bring them in, and leave the other ones alone. I saw somebody mention that. I forget who it was.
What do you mean leave them alone? Like not
leave the CFL alone. Leave those 6 teams to do their CFL thing.
The original
consume
6.
the bigger markets.
How do you have a Canadian football league without a Toronto team?
I mean, they basically don't have one now, at least financially. That's true. That's just why this is happening. I don't understand why people would fight that. I just,
so bizarre. The big market teams are struggling, but we're keeping them. You're up.
All right.
Your XFL's on the clock.
All right. I have a list of rules here, none of which you actually took off my board based on your pick. And I think it's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's the most contingent, or not contingent. What's the word I'm looking for, Alan?
Combated,
sure, whatever.
Contested?
That's contested.
There you go. That's the word.
Contested thing between the 2 leagues. and it has to be that we are stipulating 4 down football. It has to be. You just got to do it. If you want America to enjoy what the CFL, what these two leagues are trying to do, you got to go to 4 down. I'm stipulating 4 down football. Sorry, Canada. Sorry, CFL. But it's just, I think 4 down football can survive in Canada. I don't think 3 down football can survive in America.
Well, I agree. And I think most Canadian fans would agree that if this alignment's actually going to occur, that would have to happen. And Dave Naylor, I take it on an expert like him. I take his word for it when he tells us a couple times ago when we talked to him, the majority of the young fans up in Canada are 4 downers. They got their Madden. He said they all watch the NFL. So that's a fine, and that's, I think a lot of Canadians will be fine with that. I don't want to speak for them, but I mean,
you are CFL
I am.
right
so that's
now.
my job. I'm going to speak for you, Canada. Having your teams actually play in your own backyard is more important than playing a version of the game that is niche, cool, I love it, but niche and not necessary for the future of the league. So that's a concession that's going to be made, at least with me representing the CFL. So there you go, Bryant.
You are representing the CFL, but you are coming from a American perspective, right? In this conversation,
I am. I did have 3 downs on my list of things to preserve, but they're behind a few other things. So that's why that's totally
What is
fine.
important to preserve things, and I think to me the XFL needs them. This has to happen for the XFL to even start this conversation, because CFL football will not survive in this country. This country being
CFL
America.
football can survive in Canada as 4 downs. XFL football anywhere cannot survive unless it's 4 downs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's why it's probably higher on the XFL list than probably the CFL list. So 4 downs.
Okay. Well, that means CFL's on the clock for pick number 2.
It is. Let me know when your pick is in.
Hold on one sec. Are you sure? Are you sure about that? All right. Why are you wearing a toque in here? It's like 92 degrees.
What
All
are
right,
you doing?
The pick is
stop
in.
that.
I was consulting with my Canadian colleagues. With the 3rd pick overall of the XFL CFL Alignment Draft, the CFL selects the Grey Cup as the championship game and trophy in this aligned league.
No fight here, my friend. I am totally fine with playing for that cup. I think that's something the XFL will gladly accept for this league, because the only trophy the XFL has is sitting in I forget, Jim McKay? Is it Jim McKay's living room in some house in LA. That's where his trophy is. That's the 2001 trophy. The Benton, it had like that what is it, the imprinted steel around the edges. I touched it. It was hollow. There was nothing to it. It was literally just kind of aluminum. So the XFL doesn't have a trophy. We'll take the Grey Cup.
Yes. I would like to propose an add-on to our draft pick here for this
great. Screwed up.
No, I didn't. No, I did not screw up. I planned this because I didn't want to get greedy and say the Grey Cup but we are playing for the Grey Cup. We have now, and I planned this knowing if I get our teams in Canada. So we have 9 teams in Canada, and we'll have however many teams wherever else. We're playing for the Grey Cup. What do you say because this Grey Cup is on the line, it's CFL conference versus XFL conference in the Grey Cup?
I mean, that's like 2 rules. What if there's 15 XFL teams? Like at one point, is that something that's got to stick?
So if you're,
I'll let you have it, but
15 in the XFL conference,
yeah, or something like that.
But there's not going to be to start
to that point. Well, no, but mean, it's fine. It's your
I mean, you
draft.
could have American teams playing in the CFL conference. You've got the Detroit Red Wings played in the West. In the Western
So could
Conference.
you have CFL? Yeah, that's true. Could you have CFL teams play in the XFL conference? Canadian teams play in the XFL conference?
Well, so what, are you going to add a new Canadian team? So like the Schooners.
BC and Seattle are right next to each other. You're not going to have them play in the same conference?
Yeah.
Literally a rivalry that you could like have build money on. You're not going to have that happen.
Yeah, put Seattle in the CFL. Do it. Or am I asking for too much? This is on you. I just
don't think you're asking for too much. I think it's just it's a weird contingent. I don't know why you would want that as a CFL or XFL person. You want these to be together, blended. Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, blended. I'll say that reference until the cows come home, because you might not like it at first, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a good combination to bring these two leagues together and not keep them separate.
If you're talking blending, you're talking Jamba Juice to me. That's how you talk to me.
Peach pleasure.
All right, I'll take that off the table, and maybe I'll draft it on my next pick. You go. You're on. The XFL's on the clock. It's only the Grey Cup. No CFL XFL conference just yet.
Is this the last pick, or are we going another round after this?
Oh no, this is
Do
the
round?
last pick. Nope, this is the last.
We
pick.
can do another round if you want. Okay,
nope,
this last
fourth
pick.
pick. Four rules, and then we can start discussion. Real discussions.
Okay. All right. With the fourth overall pick, the XFL selects to call the league the XFL.
Oh! Ow! Wait, oh, hold on. Let me. Wait. Oh, there's the knife. It's in my back. I just let that down. If I would have left that in, the CFL conference, the XFL conference, then we wouldn't have.
You
had
can
a
call it
league
the
name.
CFC and the XFC, and then just call it the XFL.
Ew, gross. So the
What's
CFL,
the NFC, AFC, and then the NFL.
So you just drafted the death of the CFL. What do we do with
is
that?
What
name?
the CFL?
Yeah.
I mean, do you keep it? I don't know. That's a great question. Not part of my draft analysis. You figure it out. See, XFL. I'm talking about perspective from the XFL side. The XFL would want this league to be called the XFL. Honestly, the XFL has more name value in this country and probably other parts of the world than the CFL does.
Well, there you have it. That's the 2021 XFL CFL Alignment Draft. To recap, the 4 terms and conditions drafted that we can now start negotiating on top of. 9 teams stay in Canada. We drafted the Grey Cup. Oh, no, that was third. Your first one was 4-down football.
4 downs.
4-down football. The Grey Cup is the championship.
Is that gray with an E or an A?
With an E. And the CFL dies a horrible death. And the league's called the XFL. That ended dramatically. So where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? That's a great question. I think I had so many other things that I think are important, and that just shows you what else needs to happen for this league for these two leagues to actually get together. Because I don't know what else you had on your list, but I had field size, the ratio, clock rules, 11 players, the ball, point rules.
I had the rouge,
punt rules,
the waggle, and
so many different things. The defensive buffer zone of 1 yard, the punt rules, the kickoff
I did not have
rules.
that buffer zone. I had the end of the half rules with the times and the clock stop. I had clock. Clock was my final.
But
thing.
XFL clock rules. Those are mine.
They're very
I want the
similar.
XFL clock rule.
I personally want the XFL clock rules. The CFLs are a little longer. But oh well. What about the rouge? Can I sneak the rouge?
I mean, I wasn't going to fight the rouge.
Single.
I mean, whatever. It's going to be weird if you have the goalpost at the back of the end zone for this rouge to actually work, because then only balls that land in front of the The goalposts would be okay.
Or what about anything that's not returned out of the end zone is a rouge? You get your touchback, but you give us a point. I mean, that's how it works. That's everything.
Okay, we'll see.
That's something we can add on.
There's a lot.
We've got a base here, so we can add that. It's not. We don't have a huge mountain to climb anymore. Now that we have our imaginary alignment pretty much set up, now we could start diving deep into these rules. Let us know what you think. We're going to post the XFL, CFL Alignment Draft results, and going from those, well, you could critique the results, of course. Let us know how terribly
which I think a lot of people
CFL
love to do.
Yes. And then you could say a rest in peace to the CFL because Bryant killed the CFL in this draft. And then also add on to it. Where do we go from there? We have to use those rules, these terms and conditions, and go from there. Let us know what you think at XFL Show. I think where we go next is, we got to talk the size of the field, Bryant. We got to talk about that and how many XFL teams you're giving us in this XFL without the CFL, but still all these Canadian teams.
Well, I think what's kind of interesting, too, that you and I kind of went in different directions. Like, if I had gone first, I probably still would have picked 4 downs. You still would have picked 9 teams in Canada. I would have said call it the XFL. You would have said play for the Grey Cup. I think people are misconstruing that there's probably not as much crisscross between what the two leagues want as we think there is.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lot of butting heads over things like 4 and 3 downs, honestly. Where the butting of heads will be is we want our teams in our cities, and our fans want their teams, and the owners want their revenue. And, of course, we want to all grow the game, which is the big thing. But this was interesting. I honestly didn't see the naming stuff coming up. I would have said... I was like, I guess half that.
Would you have fought for CFL?
Well, I had interleague play, CFL conference, XFL conference. But then I said,
what's the league called?
Yeah, what's the league called? You don't call it anything. It's the CFL and the XFL.
That's
and they play
horrible.
for the Grey Cup.
No maybes, no ifs, just do.
What if there was no NFL? It was just only known as the AFC and NFC.
It just doesn't make sense, and if it don't make sense, it don't make dollars. So just let's get over it. But anyway, we are here every single week here. So subscribe and catch us every single week, every Friday on your favorite podcast app. That's Google, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you give us that 5-star review and tell your friends about us.
He's here too.
If you got
Luis Perez is still here.
Yes, he is. If you got a question, comment, or topic you want us to cover, we'll text or call up XFL Fan Line 724-565-4XFL. Standard text messaging rates do apply. And international rates, actually. Also, follow us on social media platforms at XFL Show. Or if you want to say hi, hello, subscribe and watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/This Is The XFL Show, the official YouTube page of This Is The XFL Show. And don't forget about our sponsors, Pretty Easy Podcast. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com and get started today because they make podcasting pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now. I screwed up. I should have put that interleague play and the naming stuff ahead of the Grey Cup. I'm sorry, Canada. Sorry. We'll get these posted though. The alignment draft results after
I will say that I don't want to lose the CFL branding.
The branding.
I love when we can play that for you because I feel like we only ever played that for myself.
You gotta be kidding me.
I wouldn't want to lose the CFL branding, but I still want the league to be called the XFL. But here's the thing, the X doesn't stand for anything, so that's always a little conundrum. Who knows what's actually going to happen?
With the name, I don't know. I don't know anything. All I know is that alignment's happening, the CFL's happening in August, and the XFL's happening in some form or fashion, and we're covering it all the way until it does and beyond right here. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Next week we'll be back talking some spring league. Super hyped for that now. And oh my gosh, as Jim Zorn said, I'm sure we're going to have some interesting reactions to this alignment draft fun little gimmick we wanted to slap.
Alan, if you had to
together this week.
redraft our coach sound bites, how would you redraft those? Who would go first?
I'd just take all the Winston Mosses, and then I would put those behind June Jones, because initially it was Winston, but I think June Jones gets played a little bit more now than Coach Moss.
Just a little bit.
A little.
It's wrong.
A little bit more. But
No, it's right.
redrafts might even have to happen too next week. We'll see.
It's drafting season. I think the window's open. Let's get a little drafty in here still.
I wish it was drafty in here. It's getting hot. It's getting hot. It's getting heated. We killed the CFL today. I'm so sorry. But hey, it'll be back to life next week. And we were going to have a lot of fun on the next show now. I think we set up a lot of good stuff with these redrafts, with the spring league and this alignment draft. So, hey, might be a slow news week where Beavers are chewing on internet lines, Bryant, but we're going to have...
They aren't chewing on ours.
No.
We're here. We're experts
here
at this.
Yes.
We know what to talk about when there's nothing to talk about. We did it for so long, and we'll continue to do it until the kickoff in 2022, 2023, whenever it is they decide, because we make football listening pretty easy.
Oh, I see what you did there. You crossed the brands. Very smart. That's a great way to end the show. Damn, he's good. He kicked my ass in this draft, and long live the CFL. That's all I got to say. All right, for Bryant, the master drafter. For me, Alan, the worst drafter in CFL history. This is the XFL show. Remember, they're listening. I'm so sorry.